Good day. Welcome. Thank you for taking the time to join us here on the GMAT Club today for what is sure to be an exciting and interesting session. Many of you are joining us from around the world, and I hope that we find you safe and curious, because today Susan Barashai from SIA Admissions will be walking us through a bit of a comparison with Wharton versus MIT Sloan. Now, just before we get going, my name is Randall. I'll be moderating the session on behalf of Susan today. And we would just like to point out that you do have a chat function that is here. Please take advantage of that to voice your questions as they might come up over the course of today's presentation. We're going to do our best to take the time at the end of the session, a good 15 minutes or so, to answer as many of those questions as we possibly can so that you leave informed. Many of you are facing a big decision. MIT Sloan, Wharton, what's the right program for me? Well, this session is going to leave you informed and in a better place of making that decision. So today, we will be led by Susan Barashai, as I mentioned, founder of SIA Admissions. Now, SIA Admissions is a boutique New York City-based admissions consulting firm that works directly with clients, one-on-one, where you work hand-in-hand with Susan throughout the admissions process. The idea being that Susan works to identify the unique characteristics that you bring to the table, your values, your character, your mission in life, and find ways to connect those values with the values and missions of the universities that you're looking to apply with. In theory, it's helping you find your voice and a voice that speaks to the admissions committee in terms of their selection criteria. Now, Susan herself is an alumnus of NYU and Yale, and she spent some time previous to her admissions consulting work working in both corporate recruiting, but also finance. The finance background was related to a very prominent New York City-based hedge fund, and then following with a Belgian-based private equity firm. So an interesting perspective to bring to the admissions process. Now, to get started today in our evaluation of Wharton versus MIT Sloan, Susan, I'd like to ask you to come in and talk to us a little bit about the overview of the two programs and a better understanding of the schools themselves.
Hey, Randall, thank you so much for that. Great introductions, and thank you, GMAT Club, for having us here today. I would like to, of course, start, that's a great segue to begin with, in talking about what makes these two programs, in essence, different from one another. They, of course, have their own mission, their own values, what they care about, and where they're putting a lot of their efforts in building stronger leaders for tomorrow. Wharton is, of course, as you all may know, it's a quant-centric school that uses or imbues quant in every element of the business education to cultivate professionals who are action-oriented and use the data as a fundamental driver to make decisions in building scalable and sustainable organizations and businesses in the long term. And that's a really important key element to keep in mind as you consider Wharton and what Wharton is going to help you do in your long term. When it comes to MIT Sloan as a comparison, the school is different. It is a place for innovation. It really attracts individuals who have a mission to make a difference in the world. These are entrepreneurial-minded professionals who really want to make an impact. And impact can come in various different shapes and forms and sizes, but that is the essence of what MIT Sloan stands for. Now, MIT, when you think about MIT Sloan first, and then also MIT as a whole, it is a very STEM-driven, tech-driven institution, and that is, of course, applied in the MBA Sloan experience as well. So it's the intersection between business and technology. The culture at MIT Sloan is very collaborative in nature. Students approach their learning very hands-on and are really mission-focused. And what that means is that individuals are more focused on the development and the development of their project and seeing it progress and seeing it grow, than they are about boasting boasting about how much funds they were able to raise. And that is a distinctive factor, what makes, again, the community and what attracts of what MIT Sloan is attracted to as far as candidates are concerned. So those are important elements on a macro scale to think about, and these elements are you're gonna see them throughout this presentation today, and how they come to life in different elements of the experience of the MBA in these two different and very distinct programs. So I'm going to move to the next slide, which I have prepared an overview of these two programs. Now, of course, I would be remiss if I don't start very quickly with a few details in the class profile, which I think is really important when you think about what follows. So similarities between the two, it's going to be very obvious. There's similar numbers in female representation in the classroom. There's also similar GMAT average, which is great, but it's not going to be a deciding factor. You have the same average GPA and the same underrepresented student body in the classroom. So I think in that regard, you're not going to see a lot of difference between the two programs. What's different, however, is that MIT Sloan does have a larger international body of students in the MBA cohort. And for those individuals who are really interested in being around a more diverse culture, as far as international students are concerned, the MIT Sloan program may be right for you. The other element to think about is the alumni body. Now, the MIT Sloan's alumni is quite larger in size than that of Wharton, but at the end, these are large numbers to begin with, so it's not going to make a huge difference as far as how you're going to leverage the alumni experience. Where it may be an interesting component to dive deeper into is if you're looking to go back to your own hometown, if you're an international student, and seeing how you can leverage these networks in your community outside of the United States. And that may prompt a conversation with the admissions officers at these different institutions and seeing how large the community is within your own geographic location. The next segment that I'm going to focus on, and I'm going to take them separately just so it's not confusing. Wharton has 19 different majors and 200 electives. That is a great program for individuals who really want to customize their MBA experience. You have a lot of opportunities and a lot of options to choose from to make this the most comprehensive and the most niche experience that you can get from an MBA program. They do offer, Wharton does offer 13 different dual degree and interdisciplinary programs. The most notable ones are the MBA MA at Lauder, which is a dual degree in international relations. And it's really a degree that would be great for someone who is interested in international business and someone who is okay with learning a lot of languages, which is another requirement for being accepted into this particular dual degree program. Then we have the Wharton's partnership with UPenn's Law School, two prominent institutions coming together to offer a joint degree, MBA and JD. This is again great for individuals who want to work in law and follow that path. And the third most notable, and probably something that you may be hearing a lot about, is the healthcare management, MBA in healthcare management. program, which is really a great program for individuals who are looking to transition into the healthcare sector. I will talk more about that later on, what it entails. But something to keep in mind here is that for the dual degree program, generally speaking, not just between these two schools, but also outside, you have to apply to these programs specifically. When it comes to two different programs, you have to be accepted into both of those programs to be in this dual track or dual degree track. So that's one component. The MBA in healthcare management, that one requires that you, of course, apply to the program directly. But a caveat here that you want to be mindful about is that you are not able, if you apply to that program and are not accepted, you won't automatically be considered for the traditional 2-year MBA at Wharton. So if that is the track you are really envisioning for yourself, that's the track you have to apply to, and that's the only track you will be considered for. Another element, of course, that is really important as you make the next steps, the decisions, in the next application round. For the international applicants that are listening to this webinar, I want to point out the STEM designation that everyone is talking about, which allows you to extend your OPT for an additional year. The Wharton MBA program only offers six of the majors only have the STEM certificate, which means that only if you receive a degree from those 6 majors, you will have the requirements to extend your OPT. So those are, I've written them down because I can never remember them. That's business analytics, business economics and public policy, business, energy, environment and sustainability, operations, information and decision, quantitative finance, and statistics. Those are the only STEM designated majors. An element to keep in mind. When it comes to the other side, MIT Sloan, the entire MBA program, 2-year MBA program, is STEM designated. So there's no concerns there if you are trying to, or if you need rather that STEM designation. MIT Sloan does not have majors. Instead, it has tracks. And I will talk about that a little later. And it does have a more limited number of electives, 28 in total. An element to keep here in mind is that you, as an MIT Sloan student, have the option to take 3 courses outside of the MIT Sloan community. That's in any other school within MIT, and they have to be graduate level courses, or Harvard. So you have the opportunity to customize your experience as far as the electives and what you learn at MIT Sloan. They also offer a dual degree, 3 dual degree programs. One is the Leaders for Global Operations, which is a 2-year MBA program in collaboration with MIT School of Engineering, and is really designed for leaders who are interested in working in operations and manufacturing. This is a great program for those types of individuals, and you may want to consider it. Now, they also collaborate with the Department of Urban Studies and Planning, individuals who are, again, thinking about that dual degree in that field. And then also they partner with the Kennedy School at Harvard to offer the MBA, MPP, or MBA, MPA, which stands for Public Policy or Public Administration. And those are designed for individuals who are going to be running businesses that work closely with government agencies or governments to really help them be most effective in those fields. So if that's your career trajectory, MIT Sloan does have that option for you that you may want to consider.
Now, Susan, before you get into the employment statistics, one question does come to mind. As I peruse the GMAT forums, there's a lot of questions about MIT Wharton. It's a big decision in terms of which school we want to apply to. Some apply to both. But then the next big decision is, what about major? Does Wharton allow more than one major? And if so, how does that work?
Yeah, great question. So the majors, the way they work is that you are allowed to take up to 2 majors. So you can customize that experience with those 2 different majors. And then also on top of that, you can layer electives to make your MBA experience much more customized to your field than what you want to do long term. So if you think about why you're applying to an MBA, you're going to have your long-term goals and your short-term goals, and you have to decide here where these different goals, what are the skills that you need to meet these different goals that will lead you again to the success in the long term. And this experience with the majors, having 2 options, is a great way to do that. So one last component here that I wanted to just address, and I hope that answered the question, is the employment element. And that I think if you look at these numbers, I've included them in here. I'm not going to go into details because they're self-evident. But what I want to just emphasize is the major industries that students are going into. So if you look at Wharton, you have finance that has a big chunk of the students are going into that sort of industry. Consulting is another big number there, and technology as well. Whereas, MIT Sloan, consulting and technology are, equal amount of students are going into those 2 different fields, and in finance as well. Now, I want you to keep these fields, the different majors in mind, because you have to think about these industries as collapsed, meaning not that the industries have collapsed, but rather that the fields and the functions and what you're doing and what you want to do is collapsed into consulting, for example. So consulting can be impact consulting, it could be strategy consulting. All of those are put together into this number. And it's going to be really important in how you decide which program to take when you have a particular interest in mind. So keep those numbers in mind there. And I think, does this make sense, Randall?
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. There's a lot of great information here. And I think, having kind of processed through what you're telling us, it really sounds like Wharton, it really is that data-driven decision makers looking to make tomorrow's kind of actionable and responsible leaders. Like, that's really at the core of what they're looking to do with the MBA program. And then you look at MIT, obviously a lot of those same things, but then also it's about, and I love the phrase that you coined, I don't know if that's trademarked or not, but intersection of business and technology. Like, that to me, when I think of MIT and an MBA from MIT, Sloan, what a great way to kind of sum up what they're doing. So yeah, I love that. I thought that really was on point. The next part of the presentation, Susan, obviously a lot of our audience today, they're debating which school is right for me, which is right in terms of my career aspirations. A big part of that is obviously the academics at these schools. When you start to evaluate Wharton versus MIT, what are the differences? What can you tell us about the academics of those universities?
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm actually going to move to my next slide. And of course, both of these schools have strong academics to think about. You have a lot of great professors, great environment to learn. When you think about your academic experience at Wharton, and the academic experience and the community experience are going to be somewhat interrelated to one another, but we'll try to untangle them a little here. So both schools are going to, if you remember the numbers that I pointed out in the previous slides, over 800, over 400 students in between these 2 different programs. Now, the schools, how they want you to learn is going to be that they want you to be around a team of supportive teams that's going to help you learn more, contribute more, gain more out of each one of your classrooms, out of each one of those experiences that you have. So with those numbers, they're going to break it down. So if I look at Wharton's academics, you start with your learning team, which is 5 to 6 students come together to learn all the materials that they're learning in the classroom, and that they debate, they discuss, they really dive deep into what that material is trying, or learn from that material. The learning style in the classroom is going to be very similar between the two programs. So you have, theory, you have case study, you have projects, you have field work, you have group work. All of these are an essential component of the MBA experience. The Wharton starts the academic experience with the preterm, which is a month-long course, pretty much, in Foundations of Leadership and Teamwork. And this is an important, essential course that is going to help you really succeed in the Wharton community. It helps you become a better leader. It helps you become a better team player, but it also helps you acclimate to the academic environment that Wharton is going to offer you. And for people that have been out of school for a number of years, that's an important component to think about, like how are you going to transition into this next step in your career? And you obviously want to be successful if you're investing so much money and so much time in this process. I mentioned earlier, Wharton does have a lot of electives that you can choose from, and those begin in the second semester. MIT Sloan, the difference here is that you are, again, put in a similar situation in small groups to discuss, to learn all of those elements. But your first semester, your fall semester is very intensive, where you take 5 core courses. Everyone the same time takes 5 core courses in the first term. That allows you the room to be more flexible later on, to really dive into the area that you are interested in studying through electives, through the tracks that I will talk in a little bit about. An element that I find really interesting and really unique about MIT Sloan's academic experience is that you are going to be taking these courses with alongside MBA Fellows. Now, MBA Fellows are professionals who are mid-career professionals who have about 10 years of work experience. And what they bring to the table is going to be different than your peer who has had the same amount of years of work experience you did. So it's going to make the conversations, the engagement in the classroom much more lively with 2 different types of, experience levels. So I think that's for me, it would be a selling point, but it really depends, again, on what your preferences are. But these are elements that really make the MIT Sloan experience very different. Academically speaking, and this is where there's this integration between academic learning, theory learning, and hands-on learning that MIT Sloan is so known for. There is the action-based learning sort of integrated in the entire experience, where you are able to take your classroom lessons, through theory and discussions, and implement those into a real business to make real change. Now, the beauty about this is individuals who want to gain more international experience, individuals who want to gain experience in a particular sector, in a particular geographic region, are able to take these action learning labs in different parts of the world to really make that experience unique to them and gain the experiences that they need to be successful post MIT Sloan. I had a client who, this was a huge selling point for him. He was interested in really being exposed to China and Chinese business, and the China lab at MIT Sloan was a selling point for him because it offered exactly what he was looking for from the MBA experience. So take a look at those options that are available to you and really dive deep into carving a path for yourself and how you see your experience at either one of these schools look as far as academics are concerned. Now, I mentioned earlier that MIT Sloan does not have majors. Instead, they have 3 track options. And these track options are intended to be options that help you really integrate in any of the major types of jobs that you would have post MBA. So it's not you're not pigeonholed into a one particular major. Instead, you're learning a lot of different similar experiences or similar lessons that you can implement in various different types of jobs post MBA. So you have the entrepreneurship and innovation, which is really designed at the core, is designed for those individuals who are looking to have, to co-found a company or to co-found a startup. Or it's also for those individuals who are looking to join an early stage firm. And it really helps them be prepared for all the things they're going to be experiencing there. Then we have the enterprise management as a second track option. And that really is for like CEOs, individuals who want to be leading a company, building a company. It's great for them to understand the cross-functional elements of how business functions, right? In addition, it's also a great track for product management, marketing, operations, supply chain, and also those individuals who are thinking about consulting, but more so consulting related to technology and strategy consulting. So when I talked about earlier where all consulting roles are bucketed under the same thing, under the same umbrella, this is what I mean, where you have the opportunity to really dive deep into how these different track options are going to help you get to what you want to do. So don't just focus on the metrics, dive deeper in what they can offer you. The third thing is finance, which is very self-evident, but it's really for individuals who want to work in corporate finance, but also, again, I'm bringing the individuals who want to work on consulting, corporate finance, as I mentioned, impact investing, investment banking, wealth management, and all these different types of finance-related roles. So really spend some time diving deep into how you can leverage these experiences at MIT. But I think it's a great opportunity that allows you to really gain a breadth of experiences, academically speaking, so you can be successful post-MBA to either change careers, which is something very, prominent thing that a lot of MBA applicants are doing. They are, trying to change course, and an MBA is an obvious sort of stepping stone to do that. Use these resources to really, pave your own path as to what you want to do post MBA. Does that make sense?
That was a great summary, Susan, and I love what you say about painting your own path. I think that's vital for any student that's coming in and investing so much energy and so much time and so much finances in pursuing their education. I love how you talked about, Wharton probably having a little bit more flexibility in terms of the approach, a lot there in terms of, the electives, but then MIT Sloan a little bit more structure around the course. So I think that's, difficult to sum up such an extensive history of academics in a 10-minute nutshell, but I think you did a great job. Susan, I know the next slide we're going to look at is going to be related to community. Now, when we think about Wharton and MIT, it's funny that we're talking about this today because in my professional career, I had some exposure to Wharton alumni because we had Professor Jeremy Siegel, who was our senior strategist working in investments. Obviously, that's a key part of Wharton. But then I look today and we're partnering with folks like Joseph Coughlin, who's with the MIT AIDS Lab. So obviously, alumni and professors are part of the community. But another part is the cohort, the peers, the campus. What can you tell us about the comparison between the Wharton community and the MIT Sloan community?
Yeah, I think that's great. And a lot of people are, at this stage in their career, when they're thinking about also not just gaining additional insights in business fundamentals, but also, of course, thinking about the networks that they want to build and the community at these different programs. It's quite robust. If we think about an earlier slide where you saw again the size of the class, if you have 800 students, that's just pretty large group of of a class to think about. But Wharton does want you to engage and build a strong network in that community. So in addition to the cohort that you will be part of, they also put you in a cluster system, which is pretty much about 210 students, where with your cohort you get to work with the classwork, but also you get to build a wider network of individuals and professionals through the cluster system. So I think that's a great opportunity to not just be, oh, I'm only stuck with this cohort. You have an opportunity to really broaden your horizon, broaden your exposure to building a stronger network of individuals there. MIT Sloan is very similar in that regard. It's very collaborative. It's collaborative culture. It's about helping one another. It's wanting to see one another succeed, and you will see that if you end up attending any of these schools. You will see that even post MBA with the alumni body as well. And opportunity, there's a lot of opportunities. Let's just start with that, to engage in community and build a network. That happens through clubs, through centers, through conferences, through friendly competitions. All of these are part of building community, not just learning. So they're very much integrated into one another. The Wharton community does have an extraordinary number of clubs. It's almost like there's a club for everything you can think about. So you have 130 different clubs, and that allows you to be around like-minded peers and really build a stronger network that way. MIT Sloan incorporates the MIT community with the MIT Sloan MBA student body. So you have the 70 MIT Sloan clubs, and you have access to the 450 other clubs that MIT at MIT as a whole. So you really get to build networks outside of the Sloan specific community if you choose to do that. So it's a great way, and it's a distinction between the two different programs. Now, obviously, you're going into an MBA program. You want to be innovative. You want to be, you want to be a leader. You want to be around action and around where things are happening. And the centers at both of these programs are a wonderful place to be. These are, you will be around individuals who are really taking action to building new things, to building startups, to starting ventures, to creating new ways to make the future. So if you look at, the Wharton community, they do spend a lot of time, they did invest a lot of money in the entrepreneurship, the Center for Entrepreneurship, Tangen Hall, who is to be unveiled this fall, hopefully. And there you have a 7-story building, from retail space to kitchen to 3D printers, really putting all of the entrepreneurial-minded individuals in one space. But that also allows you to build a community with other individuals that are not necessarily in your same field of interest, but have the same spirit like you do. One component that I really like about the Wharton community is the sense of building character. And that is nowhere better shown than the leadership venture. The leadership venture is made of 3 types. So you have the expeditions, you have the intensives, and you have the workshops. The workshops are fairly self-evident. You have an intensive workshop. It's about 1 to 3 days, depending on which one you're taking, and really helps you learn additional skills. But what I really like about the leadership venture is the expedition and intensives, which are outdoor experiences, placing you in an environment that you're unfamiliar with, and you have to deal with uncertainty and with changes, and you have to push your comfort zone. And what you get out of this experience is really a self-discovery. You are going to build character. You're going to build leadership. All of those are really an important element to becoming a leader. You have to be more than just someone who knows stuff. You have to be someone who has the core strength to be able to handle any type of circumstance that come his or her way. And this is a great way to be a part of that. Of course, as I mentioned, there are a lot of conferences you can be a part of, and you can also strengthen your network and build more community by inviting people to join a conference that you have or you have been a part of to create. And that really strengthens the community. You have an opportunity to work with external participants and extend your network beyond the Wharton or MIT Sloan community. And then, of course, if you're an entrepreneurship track, or if you're thinking about entrepreneurship, the Wharton Startup Challenge, which offers you, for the winner rather, $135,000 award to start your startup. And that's a great way to do that. Similar with the MIT Sloan community, you have a lot of opportunities, or MIT Sloan experience, you have a lot of opportunities to build community through the different centers for leadership. And one that I want to point out is the Legatum Center, which is a center that really focuses on helping build entrepreneurial ventures in the developing world. And that goes, again, back to the essence of what MIT Sloan stands for in changing the world. And this is a center that really embodies that element. Of course, the sustainable initiatives and all of these other elements, all of these other centers that really help you bring to life your vision for a future that you hope to have. I think I'm going to stop there on that. There's obviously some information here that you can check on your own. Does that make sense, Randall?
Yeah, I love that, Susan. I mean, listening to this, I feel like I'm already part of the community. So I don't know, there's a lot to take in there and a lot to be excited about. I think what I appreciate most, though, is it seems like both Wharton and MIT Sloan have a incredible, extensive community that would allow its students to benefit from the entrepreneurship, the leadership, regardless of the school that you ultimately choose. But what I really like is two things. One, as we figure out what this post-COVID new reality looks like, there's a lot of community engagement here over and above the traditional on-campus community. And I think that is going to be something vital to every student moving forward. But then second, it's also about tapping into a wider audience. When I think about why many students are going back for an MBA and taking that next step in their career, the perspective that comes from like MIT Sloan, for example, expanding that to the 450 MIT clubs outside of Sloan. What a unique way of getting different perspectives and different opinions and different experiences. So I really love that. Thanks for walking us through it.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. That's a great point there. It is about learning. It's about learning, right? When you think about your MBA experience, you want to learn yourself from other people, but it's also you imparting your own insights and your own knowledge. And it's a great way to really expand that and learn from others who think entirely different than you. And like you pointed out, the MIT clubs outside of the Sloan community is a great way to do that as well, for sure.
Susan, you mentioned it's all about learning, and I know now you're going to touch a little bit on the professional learning experiences. Like it or not, if we're making the decision to make the investments in ourselves and go back to school for the MBA, it's about advancing our professional expertise and our professional positioning as far as the next steps in our career. How do those two schools compare? When you look at Wharton from a professional learning experience perspective versus MIT Sloan, what are some of the nuances and differences you see between the two programs?
Yeah. So I'm just going to change slides here. When it comes to, of course, professional development, and if you, as you saw in the previous slides, there is a lot of available opportunities out there, and a lot of the clients that I touch base on after they have been admitted and choose to attend these programs, there is this element of that fear of missing out, and you cannot, unfortunately, yet duplicate yourself and attend to multiple different events, or be engaged in multiple different things. So what these schools do exceptionally well is helping students prepare a plan so they make the best out of that experience that they have. Now, MIT Sloan does have a lot of industry advisors, so 19 industry advisors that help you create that plan. And you also have second-year MBA students that help you develop the career plan and navigate the career, which is, of course, a great way to, again, extend your network of community building, not just within your cohort, but also outside with the second years. In comparison, I do have to say that the Wharton industry advisor number, it's obviously much more exponential, and of course that number also makes sense because the number of students is much higher. But what I really, really like about Wharton's engagement in helping you become a stronger leader is you get to have 5 executive coaching sessions for each student has to have, each student gets 5 executive coaching sessions, which really help you hone in what you want to do and build the skills that you need to progress in your chosen field, in your chosen career. So I think they are similar but different in that regard. There's, of course, a lot of learning. One of them I mentioned earlier, the leadership venture. You have a lot of learning opportunities to become better leaders within these schools. With MIT Sloan, I already talked about the action learning. So you really get to experience firsthand and trial and error. Go through the process of helping someone else build their own company, be as a consultant, and help them, thrive. But of course, in this process, you're not on your own, but you have the backing of the MIT Sloan community, who is going to help you. The professors are going to help you really, answer any questions that you may have, help you really navigate any of the problems that you may be facing. So you really have a hands-on learning experience, not just you doing, but also the community helping you fulfill your mission, what you want to do, what do you want to get out of that. Same thing goes with the tracks at MIT Sloan. I mentioned them already. It's a great way to really hone in your skills and learn the different skills that you're going to need to go into the career that you want. So spending some time with the advisors to make those selections are, it's priceless, really. You have opportunities to be, immersed in a global environment, both, taking these action learning, labs in the United States, but also outside, and similar but different process with the Global Immersion program at Wharton, which really helps you, learn the economies, the geographies, the politics of a particular region, and then you have the opportunity to go there and experience it yourself. These are, of course, different programs, but similar integrations as far as what they can offer you as far as your professional development. Now, when you compare the two, you do have to think about which side you are most inclined towards. What do each of these programs offer you that you are more excited about, and narrow it down. Excuse me. Neither one of these programs or any of the program is going to be perfect match, but try and hone in a little bit from each to decide which one makes most sense for you and what's more important to you. Is it that you have a lot of different industry experts available to you, or that you have coaching session, or is it that you have these action learning labs that you have 20 available to you, and you have to make those decisions. What learning experiences you are hoping to get out of an MBA experience. Perfect.
Susan, that's again a great input. I mean, having observed how you interact with your own clients in terms of helping them on their academic journey, it's about getting to know their individual core drivers and finding ways to really find the best university to develop those core competencies that they have. It sounds a lot like here, Wharton and MIT Sloan are kind of doing the same thing on a professional path, whether it be through the executive coaching sessions to really customize that professional path for the Wharton student, or whether it be those action learning labs with hands-on learning, doing real consulting. So I could definitely see the value there because we've experienced that firsthand. I know that we do want to keep some time for questions, but before getting to that, I was hoping you could use that last slide and really take a minute to give us kind of high level, okay, Wharton, here's an example. I was at an asset management firm where the senior strategist was from Wharton, the CEO was from Wharton, the head of research was from Wharton. That's obviously an extreme case where Wharton's probably going to get you pretty far with that company. But in a more general sense, what is the Wharton good for as far as the MBA? Where do you see the MIT Sloan MBA good for from a broad kind of brushstrokes perspective, Susan?
Yeah, great point. And I'm just going to move to the next slide. I mean, if you think of the numbers that you saw earlier, in the finance world, Wharton is very prominent. We've both experienced that individually. Wharton does hold clout. So if that's the field that you are interested in, absolutely, you have to have Wharton on your list of schools to target. Now, of course, that all depends on your, the background and all the things that you bring to the table. But if you do meet those, Wharton is a program to definitely consider. Especially, I would say also, a lot of people go into investment banking, and you will see that across different schools. But what I really find quite interesting for Wharton is that it even holds a strong name for private equity for individuals who want to work in venture capital. I think it's like 12% of the class goes into those fields within finance. And the reason why I point that out is I know a lot of individuals that are currently in private equity or in venture capital are hesitant to pursue an MBA because they worry that they won't be able to come back into that field because they're taking 2 years off. And 2 years off is a long time. A lot of things happen in that 2 years. But if you look at the metrics, if you look at the name, the brand recognition, which we can't really avoid as being an important component, with a Wharton degree, I think that would be still a possibility. You still learn the business fundamentals that you want. You still strengthen your network and build a wider community of people that are like-minded. So if you're considering finance, Wharton should absolutely be on that list. I know that a lot of people don't necessarily think about entrepreneurship and Wharton, but it is actually quite a great program for those interested in entrepreneurship. I mentioned earlier the Tengen Hall, which has been, which has been opened. I mean, right now it's closed, but it is open to individuals in entrepreneurship-oriented MBA candidates, and it's about 50 to 60 students that start their own ventures out of, that are at Wharton. So think about those. You'll be around other individuals who are in the same sort of capacity, if you will. The element that I would also like to point out that if, as an entrepreneur, if you're thinking about either now or perhaps in the future of raising funds for your venture, for your whatever it is that you have developed, coming in to an investor with a Wharton MBA does hold a lot of power. So that would be another positive component that you want to consider as far as, where do you go if you're an entrepreneur? And Wharton should be on that list as well. I mentioned earlier the healthcare, the MBA in healthcare, and it is no secret that Wharton has a really, really strong program in the healthcare sector. Individuals who want to transition into healthcare should absolutely apply to the MBA in healthcare program. They have their designated healthcare career counselor or career advisor. They have their designated recruiting services available to the MBA students in that program. So you do have a lot of support to make that transition. And Wharton, if healthcare is the area that you are interested in, then Wharton is the place to go. When it comes to MIT Sloan, I mentioned earlier, it's a very tech-heavy. MIT in general is a tech-heavy school. MIT Sloan does have a large number of students that are coming with a STEM background into the program. So if you are an entrepreneur who is thinking about technology and how to apply it or apply your technology in various different sectors, this is a place to be. You are at Kendall Square, where you will be in a community of really engaging and really vibrant community of biotech companies, tech startups, and research labs all around you, which is a great way to work on your own technology-driven venture. Individuals who are looking to go into operations and supply chain management, I know that's a question that comes up often in these GMAT club chats. MIT Sloan should be on your list. I mentioned earlier the Leadership in Global Operations dual degree program that they offer, which really allows you to take courses throughout the campus. Is a great opportunity for those individuals who are interested in this field. However, I understand that you may not want a dual degree. So if you really take advantage of the enterprise management track within the different tracks I mentioned earlier, that will really help you succeed in the operations and supply chain management job function that you may want post MBA. Now, earlier I started by talking about MIT and wanting to change the world, and we cannot think about changing the world without thinking about green and sustainability and the environment and climate and all of that. So if you are interested in developing a business or working for a business that is green focused, the MIT Sloan MBA program is definitely a school to consider. You have the option of not only being, choosing your track that makes the most sense for you and the role you want to play within those businesses, but also earning a certificate in sustainability, which is not it doesn't require a separate application, so it's really an easy thing to do if that's something you're interested in doing. You also have a great support community of clubs, both within MIT Sloan and outside of MIT, that you can really tap in and help you be successful in that career path that you may want to choose. And I think it's a great program for you to consider as well.
Again, that's great information, Susan. I love what you bring up about sustainable business. It's hard to look at the environment that we're living in today and not think that that's something that everyone should have on their mind as they're planning out their careers over the next 20, 30, and 40 years. Now, I know we've got about 5 minutes remaining, and we did want to answer some questions. What I'm going to do is give Susan a moment to kind of browse the live comments to look through the questions. GMAT Club does invest a lot in these forums, and so you will notice in the live comment section a link for SIA admissions and the complimentary consultation. Obviously, the questions that are a little bit more specific to your individual case, Susan always makes herself available. If she wants to bring up that slide, I know there's a number of ways you can engage with SIA that you can see there. But if you do want some specific one-on-one kind of feedback with regards to your specific candidacy, reach out for the free consultation. I know Susan does make herself available for those complimentary sessions, and she's happy to kind of walk you through the specifics of your questions. That being said, for the more general questions, Susan, I'm going to leave it to you to go through the live comments and find the sections that appeal to the widest audience, because I know the GMAT Club always wants to have these engaging sessions providing the most relevant feedback for the widest audience possible.
Yeah. Thank you, Randall. I actually took off the slide, but there's numerous ways to engage with us. You can go on my website at siaadmissions.com and, be a part of the weekly video series, look at our insights that we share, as well as, of course, as Randall mentioned, reach out for a complimentary consultation where we can answer your specific questions. And I see that there's a lot of questions here that I know we won't have time to answer all, but we'll try to get through as many as possible. And I please encourage you to reach out to me. I would love to answer these questions. Live. I will probably see if I can post some of them after this video later on. So please check in later this live stream. So the question that I have here is from Mackenzie. Mackenzie Mikaziwa, I apologize, asks, I have a quick question regarding EMBAs, how these schools are compared when it comes to the executive MBA. I don't have a comparison in front of me right now, but these are great programs within these, in the executive MBA sphere as well. So I would probably say let's have a conversation offline and talk further about what you are looking for specifically.
Susan, is it safe to say, though, that the EMBAs of those, if you look at the broad brushstrokes of what the universities are trying to bring across, do you see those same kind of core missions in the EMBAs you would see in the general MBA?
Yeah, the core mission, what the university stands for, the essence of these institutions is going to remain the same. They are who they are and what they bring to the table. So absolutely, that is going to be true for the EMBAs as well.
Thanks.
Great. For an actuary who is more inclined towards risk management and who has been working in an actuary consultancy, which university is better? When it comes to, I would say, risk management, this is a very broad question, so I would need a little bit more details here to be able to help you. But when you think about sort of risk management, I would probably look at Wharton perhaps as another, as a school to consider for sure, in what they provide, and also the structure of how they use data in business and making more sustainable organizations, make them stronger. Could you have opportunities available for students interested in social entrepreneurship at both schools? With about a minute left to this session? Probably not right now, but what I will do is, Agrima, I will be responding to you in the chat after the session, and I can elaborate a little bit more about the entrepreneurship sort of segment between these two schools. But as I mentioned earlier, these have great entrepreneurship opportunities, both centers, and
Susan, sorry to interrupt, but you can continue for maybe 5 minutes.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, sure, please.
Absolutely. Okay, great. So the opportunities available to students interested in the social entrepreneurship component, I would say, really.
Susan, how many entrepreneurship clubs were there at Wharton versus MIT in a general sense?
Well, there were the numbers that I provided earlier. It was 130 at Wharton and 70 at MIT Sloan, but they have different, of course, segments within those things. The MIT Sloan specifically, you can look at, the Sustainable Summit. You can look at the Policy Forum. You can look at the Energy Club at Sloan. The Water Club, there's a lot of different opportunities there, as well as within the different segments of the different centers that each school offers. For someone who's looking to forge a career in quantitative field, would the tech prowess of MIT make more sense? I would probably say it really depends on what you're looking for. I know I mentioned earlier the business analytics at Wharton, and they're very data-driven. They're very quant, focused. So I'm not sure that would be the deciding factor between the two. I would probably focus more on the culture and where you thrive more. All right, last question. And which sports minor in sports management along, I'm sorry.
So is it possible to get a minor in sports management along with the other courses taken throughout the kind of core MBA competencies?
Yeah, so I'm assuming that you are probably looking at the Wharton opportunities. Wharton minors, actually they have no minors, just specifically speaking. There could be courses that you can look at in sports management that can add value to what you want to do later on. But neither one of these programs neither one have a minor available, only electives. All right, thank you all for joining us today. I'm sorry I didn't get to go through all the questions. I will try to answer some of them on the YouTube channel. And if I don't get to answer yours, please reach out. I'll be happy to speak about your specific case and help you make the decision between the two. Thank you.
Thank you.